Hi, this is Sarah, the Stitchin' Mommy, and welcome to my 2021 WIP Parade. And WIP stands for Work in Progress. So I'll be sharing with you all of the things in cross-stitch world that I have started at this point in time. It is currently August 31st, 2021, but I'll probably won't be posting this until September 1st. My goal is to make September 1st my target date for my annual WIP Parade. I've discovered that the January and July dates that are pretty popular on Flosstube don't work for me in my personal life. So September 1st it is. So hopefully this will be the first annual fall WIP Parade. So I will hopefully show you before and afters of what it looked like in January when I did my last WIP Parade. And in the future, going forward, we'll have a whole year's worth of progress. Right now we only have 8 months worth of progress. So that's just the way it's going to be. There's a handful, I think like 4 or 5 pieces that did not get worked on yet this year, but I'm still hoping to put them in my rotation before the end of the year. So going forward, I'm hoping everything will have at least a little bit of progress to show between WIP parades. I decided to be organized this time. I have 80 projects, and this morning I went through and I updated my WIP list. Even with my travel stitching, on my most recent weekly update, I commented that sometimes my travel stitching doesn't get put on my WIP list and it just kind of happens, and then I finish it and it doesn't really make a blip on the radar. But I decided to include everything because it is stuff I'm working on and sometimes it takes a while. So I included everything, including travel projects. The only things I'm not including are model stitching from my Etsy shop. So I have one not yet to be released Herschel and Lucy design that's half stitched. I won't be showing that. I also won't be showing my temperature piece because September is kind of a weird time to show that anyways, and it's not, I mean, it's half fun stitching, but it's also half model stitching. So I'm just going to leave that stuff out, and this is only personal stitching. And then I've broken it up into 4 categories, all roughly the same size: fancy ladies, full coverage, other, and sampler. The sampler category is not traditional, but if it has the word sampler in the pattern or it's made up of lots of little motifs, I'm calling it a sampler. So you won't see you won't see any reproduction samplers. You won't see very many traditional looking samplers, but there's sampler-esque things that are better there than in the other, lumped into the other category. I have one counted canvas piece, which I'm currently, I think I'll show you during the other category, but in the future, it might have its own category. We'll see. At the time, I only have one, so it's going to go into other for now. So first off, I'll start with the things I've finished since January, which has only been 3, or technically 5, 2 little cards. So technically 5 things since January, not counting mini finishes. So I have, like the Prim Stitch series has a bunch of little ones all in the same, I'm counting that as one WIP. So I'll show that all together, but that project is not finished, so I'm not going to count that as a finish. I'll wait until the sampler category and show that all together. I've started a lot more than 5 since January, so my ratios aren't great, but that's okay. So first off, I think I showed this in my last WIP Parade because I finished it on the 1st or 2nd, but I'll go ahead and show it now because technically it has been in this calendar year. So this is my Letter E Fairy by Nora Corbett, and this is on 32 count Water Lily Linen by Witchelt, which is the called for fabric, 2/2, all the cross stitches, and I've changed the colors to be things I had in my stash, as well as a red conversion for the fairy and the jewels. So this is for one of my nieces for a graduation present coming up this coming June, next June. She'll get this. And then I believe the next 2 finishes were the cards that I made for my aunt and my grandma, and I'll show pictures of those because they have been gifted. I made 2 cards from the same designer, Snowflower Diaries, and I believe it's either a free design from her blog or fairly inexpensive digital download. And I updated the floss colors to be what I had in my stash and be things that I thought those particular individuals would like, their color schemes and things. So I finished both of those and turned them in the cards and gifted them to my aunt and my grandma. And actually my mom hand delivered them because they live far away from me. And I thought it'd be nice to hand deliver them instead of mailing them. So here is my next finish, Quick Stitch Iris, which is a Heaven and Earth Designs pattern. Stitch this 1/1 full crosses with on 25 count. I believe it's probably an even weave, but I don't know the brand or anything. It's white. I will be framing this soon. I realized I need to get this going to give to my mom again, who is going to visit my relatives again in the next couple months. So I want to give this to her to gift to a different aunt who loves irises. So she's also a crafter. She knits and spins, so I think she will appreciate this, and I'm excited to give it to her. So this is, I don't think there's anything else to say with that. And my last finish for so far in 2021 is my Mill Hill Buttons and Beads kit, Winged Monarch, that I finished and framed in this Mill Hill brand frame. And I did it on all the called for perforated paper. It came as a kit, all their threads and beads and everything. So it's got a little button down here with in the shape of a flower, and then all the other beads as called for. So that's fun. I think now I will launch into my Fancy Lady category, because that is what I've got out here. I'm an alphabetical thinker, so I sorted my list alphabetical and then I sorted it by category. So now within each category, everything is alphabetical, but also the categories themselves are alphabetical. Fancy Lady comes first. So I will start with Adia, the Garden Fairy, by Mirabilia. She is beautiful. I'm stitching her on something similar to what's called for, if not exact. It calls for Dirty Linen by Zweigart, which when I made this, I wasn't keeping track of anything, but it looks a lot like that. So it very well could be the called for. Try to stay somewhat organized. I'm going to reset this setup in between every category, so I'll only bring up here the WIPs in that category, and then I'll pause the video and go reset and then start again. So that'll help too if I end up taking too long and I need to take breaks and have to finish this afternoon or later tomorrow, then I can keep them in chunks. So here is Adia, the Garden Fairy, on likely 32 count Dirty Linen by Zweigart, and she's beautiful. I like all of her 2/2 full crosses for the entire design. She's got some beads already on her. I stitch everything in hand, rolled up, where I hold it in my left hand, and I stitch with what do you call that? Poke and stab method. I do not stitch with sewing method. My stitches don't look nice when I do that. So I do poke and stab with my right hand and hold it in my left hand rolled up. And because I do it that way, I keep them rolled up in a variety of tubes. Some tubes are old recycled tubes from the craft store. Some are recycled from wrapping paper, just a variety of things. I guess I'll leave that here. Next one is Mirabilia's Ashley's Roses. And this is another pretty one. This one is stitched on cream linen, and it is, I guess I'll do an up and down one with this one. It's only the top so far. I don't have the Fancy Lady yet, but I believe the last time I worked on this, I made it to the far side with the border, so that's exciting. And I think right here in the middle is her hand, the start of her hand, this peachy stuff right here. So that's exciting. I'm hoping to spend more time on this at some point and get that top knocked out and move down into her. I like to get to their faces as soon as possible because it motivates me to enjoy the stitch. So I might work down and get to her face and then go back up and finish some of the boughs of flowers, but we'll wait and see. The next one I have is a collage that I put together of the Lavender and Lace Celtic ladies. So within this collage, basically all I did was crop the main lady and put the title of this is an example of what summer originally looks like. I took the letters, one of each, you know, or some of these, one of these, and a crop of her, and then kind of included them in here. So one of these tiny medallions made it into the center. The big medallions, there's two of each alternating, and then the tops. So I have this started. I'm hoping to start the autumn quadrant this month, and I've started spring and summer so far, I think. I'm doing this on 32 count lamb's wool linen, which is very stiff and see-through, so I will put it on get this behind it. So this is where I've started, and I started this in 2021, so there will be no before picture. But I started with spring since that's at the top, and that's when I had finally finished charting this. And I kind of hop and skipped my way down to make sure I'm counting right, and started summer just a little bit, and then I believe autumn is right here. So I'll kind of work over sometime this month to start autumn, since the first day of autumn is in September here in the Northern Hemisphere. So this is a fun one. I am already doing the Mirabilia seasonal queens, so I didn't really want to stitch all the full seasonal ladies from Lavender and Lace also. Just don't really have room in my on my walls for that sort of thing. I had an idea to just do the, I guess, prettiest parts and the most important parts and kind of put them together, and then I can enjoy the stitch without spending a whole lot of time on doing all 4 full things. I know the dresses are pretty, but I figured for my personal stitching time, I'd rather stitch the Mirabilia ones in full than these ones. So that's the choice that I made. The next one is Daisy Girl, which I decided at the last minute should be in my fancy lady category just because her cute little dress is part of what drew me to this pattern in the first place. So this is a Leisure Arts leaflet that I started this originally a long time ago in high school, I think. So it's been 25 years maybe. And recently I restarted it. So the before picture you see will have more stitching done on it, and the fabric is different. But I restarted it, and I think I'll be happier this way. So this is, and I'll put this on here too because it's a gray-green 32 count fabric. It's kind of a mystery fabric, and I restarted it from the top down in her head. So there's some hair and bonnet stitches started there. And it does look very different than last time because I decided to restart. Before I had started it on 32 count MCG Textiles gray linen and was doing 3 strands, and it was just not enjoyable. I decided 2 strands is proper for 32 count. When I was in high school, you know, I was a fairly novice stitcher still, but I was tackling all these big projects. I decided to follow their directions exactly on the pattern, which said to use 3 strands, but it also recommended 28 count, and I had chosen 32. Probably because that's the only thing I could find in gray, which is a color I wanted to use, and so it just didn't work. 3 strands over 2 on 32 count, in my opinion, is too bulky. So it made it not enjoyable to stitch. So I'm gonna go ahead and restart it, and I'm happy to still be able to have that cute little pattern, but not dread working on it every single time. So the next one is Joan Elliott Edwardian Lady, and she's really pretty. I'm doing her on a similar fabric to what's in the example here. I believe mine is called Fairy Mist Even Weave by Fabric Flare. And here is my progress so far. This is 32 count even weave, if I didn't say, 2/2 again. Just a little bit of work on this. I think I gave it a couple days in July for Joan Elliott July and worked on the hat a little bit. So not a whole lot of progress this year probably, but a little bit. And I love working on this fabric. It's really pretty. I keep wanting to put them over there because that's what I do in my WIP parade, but there's no room over here right now. Next one is Enchanted Alphabet, which is another one that I had in the other category because it's got a lot of letters, but really the girl with her poofy dress, and because it's a lavender lace, it does kind of fit in the fancy lady category. So I'm going to go ahead and show this one now. This is one that's on, what is it called? 45 count Society Time linen. And it's a nice green, pale green. All the called for threads, which are all DMCs. So the variegation in these letters is DMC, 1 strand over 2. So the finished, because it's dyed fabric, it's a little tighter than 45. The finished stitches are closer to like 25 count. Like it's 23, 25 to 25, somewhere in there when I measured it. So tiny little stitches. Haven't gotten to the girl yet, so still working on the letters, but it's nice to do a letter each time I work on this. Doesn't always happen that way, but that's kind of a nice goal. And then I have Garden Prelude by Mirabilia. And this one I started for my birthday last year, I think. I'll be working on this again later in September for Dawn, Frosty X Stitch's birthday, because we started it together last year, so I'll work on it close to her birthday this year, and because I have plans to start some full coverage things on my birthday, so I figured let's work on this one for her birthday. And I decided, they called for some, let's see, Karen water lilies for these flowers, and I decided to just pull some cotton fancy floss out of my stash in colors that are similar and call it good, because I have a lot of random fancy floss. I might as well use it. So, and if it's just for flowers, I don't think it has to be an exact match to what they called for. So this is on Wedgwood Lugana by Color and Cotton. And I'll do an up and down one with this as well. Got the whole width of the design with those archways. Super pretty. Got started on her. The violin is pretty much done, I think. And her head is mostly done, not quite. I love the bright teals on her dress, so that'll be fun to work down. I have more to do in the columns, so I'll probably try to be good and keep working in the columns to try to get those finished, because it's nice to have the tops, the way I stitch, it's nice to work from the top down, so I'm not handling the stitches as much, and so I want to get those done so I don't have to worry about them anymore, because they're the most boring part, and then I'll move on to the dress and the flowers and all the pretty things. So this is an example of a tube that's literally just pieces of cardstock taped together. Nothing super fancy over here. And the next one is my Halloween Fairy by Nora Corbett. And it says Trick or Treat, so I tend to want to say Trick or Treat Fairy, but there is another small Nora Corbett pattern where she actually has a bag with candy and she's wearing a costume that's called Trick or Treat Fairy as well. So this one is technically Halloween Fairy, I think, but I think it's been called both things. So anyways, this is Halloween Fairy, and I am stitching, oh, you can find this as a digital download at Hirschners.com. That's where I got mine. Just printed out paper from my printer. So, and I'm working on this on some more Fabric Flare fabric called Mushroom Slushy, 32 count, 2/2. And that's my start on her. And I haven't worked on her yet this year, so I don't think the before picture will be any different, but I will be working on her again in October around Halloween time, because that makes sense, right? So she's got, I worked my way, I probably started in the center and worked my way up, so I will probably try to keep going up to get as much done at the top of the pattern as I can, and then work my way down, beads and all. That's how I like to do the fancy ladies. The next one I have is Lady of the Flag by Mirabilia. This is an original that I bought in a local needlework shop back in the day when it was brand new, probably in 2001. This was charted as a memorial for the 9/11 Twin Towers events, so I hope to work on it next week in honor of that Patriot Day memorial time. So I had almost forgotten about it, and someone else mentioned they were going to do a certain project on that day. I'm like, oh yeah. I won't be working on it on 9/11 because the 11th is a Friday, which I'm planning for new starts for my birthdays that will all be on Fridays for a long weekend. But I think I'm going to do it the 2 days before and give this a couple days in September, close to 9/11, in honor of that. So here is Lady of the Flag. Right now I'm doing this on 32 count Stony Point linen by Witchell. It's again the stiff see-through stuff. I don't mind working on it, it's just hard to show sometimes because it's so see-through, but I am working in the flag right now, so that's probably what I'll get to this week. But since I showed it in January, I think I have done a good amount of beading and things over here, so hopefully you'll see some difference in that. Because I think I pulled it out once or twice already this year. I keep wanting to go that way. Here is my most recent Mirabilia start. I started this on May 1st for my Mirabilia May Lady of the Mist. And I decided to stitch this on, what did I do this on? Light denim linen by Color and Cotton. And I thought it was a nice, perfect, misty color. Since it had a border, I decided to start at the top. And I chose a Victorian motto, I think, for the border color, because the DMC variegateds, I could find the pinks, but I couldn't find the brown that they called for. DMC variations, I believe. And so I just picked a brown that I thought was similar rather than waiting for it to come in stock somewhere. And I think it'll be okay. The variegation takes longer to change, but I think it'll give it a similar look. So I'm happy with that. And the other colors are in the roses. So that's pretty. That'll be fun to get back to at some point. I love Color and Cotton fabrics, so that's a little plug. A lot of her fabrics that I've chosen so far are in my Fancy Lady category. And I have several more kitted up with Color and Cotton fabrics that I haven't started yet, so more goodness to come at some point in the future. Then I have my current Nice Letter Fairy that I'm working on. This is also by Nora Corbett. This is the L Fairy. Hopefully I'd like to have this done by the end of the calendar year, so we'll see how that goes. I have a few more months to do it. And I am making this one again a conversion with either colors similar to what they had, or I've changed her dress to be pink. And then the L is slightly more purple than the color that they had. This is the same 32 count water lily that I did the E on, and it's 2/2 everywhere. And this is how far I've gotten. I don't know if I had started this when I did my last WIP parade, so I guess we'll see when I go to find the before pictures. But this is a really pretty color, Color and Cotton Highlands, pinks and grays. And then I just chose some pinks in different shades for her dress. And everything else I believe is close to what's called for, just what I had in my stash that looked like it matched nicely. I have not done any beads yet, but that will be forthcoming. Hopefully I'll get at least one day on this here in September, because I like to do one day a month on my family pieces, unless I have some overarching large plans that cover the whole month, like Arbitrary August that I just did. So This one hopefully will again get at least one more day the next few months. Since it's fairly small, that might be enough to do it, but I also might need to focus on it more as the year draws to a close to make sure I can finish it. So the next one is May Day Merriment by Joan Elliott. Second Joan Elliott, I have two. And this is one that I found in the Cross Stitch Gold July 2010 magazine. It's there on the cover. And thought that was pretty, but I am changing a lot of it with using fancy flosses instead of DMC shading. So for example, this purple dress will be a purple variegated one floss. So it'll look a little bit different, but I thought it's simple enough of a design with the people or smaller scale that I think I can play with the colors and not take away too much from the design. So I'm having fun with that so far. Pulled my own floss. Again, just an excuse basically to use up my floss that I have been gathering. And this one is done on another color and cotton fabric. Spring Morning. Jobelin, I think. Yeah, Spring Morning Jobelin by Color and Cotton. And here is how far I've gotten. I have at least the tops of all the ribbons. This basket and these ribbons are done. These ribbons, the green ones might be finished too, but these ones in the middle, I believe there's more kind of winding in and around the girls. And then recently I just started the hair on the first girl. So far I'm really enjoying how that looks and the play of color with the variegated floss without actually having to change my threads. And it's not, the shading won't be in the exact right spot to be the way Joan Elliott intended it, but I think it's, again, it's a simple enough design that I think it's okay. I think it'll still work. And next I have Nantucket Rose by Lavender and Lace. This is one you would have seen a little bit recently. I think I worked on this in August. And I recharted her hair to look like Anne of Avonlea from the movie. And recently I took away stitches. So this is on 32 count gray linen by MCG Textiles. This is the same stuff I had the Daisy Girl on before I restarted it. And probably the only change you'll see since last year is that I removed the house because I realized once I had gotten into it that I had reversed the colors. I needed it to be a white house with green trim and it had been the other way around. So I frogged it, updated my conversion, and next time I work on this, I'll probably try to start restitching on that house to make sure I like how it looks. All right, next we have Roses of Provence, which is a fairly new start, but I think I had started it last year. Guess we'll see if I find a before picture. I don't think, yeah, I think I started this last year. So did a little bit more on it this year. This is on Stonehenge by Color and Cotton. It's a linen 32 count, 2/2. It's a nice greens and purples, which I really liked for her being in a garden. So I believe, you know, next time I work on this, I'll keep going on her hair or the roses in the topiary tree over here that are the highest points in the design. Really pretty. Kind of slow going on some of these because I have so many things that I'm splitting my time between, but they're all really pretty. And I enjoy having them available to choose from when the mood strikes or a challenge group calls for something. I have them available. So to me, it's just fun. Next, we have Stargazer, also by Mirabilia. And this is one that I've done a color conversion on to look more like me and also be colors that fit the fabric that I decided to make. This is on brown fabric, so the stars, in my opinion, don't show up very well. So I wanted to do dark blue fabric, and I dyed a piece of white 32 count linen by MCG Textiles to a dark denim, and it turned out great. And I changed her hair to be light brown like mine, and then burgundy and gold and blue dress to be more colors that A, show up on the fabric, and B, are my colors. So far, I really like how this is coming along, and I don't remember how much I'd done last year, but I finished the stars in the sky, which I may or may not have had done last year, and got started on more of the bottom of her dress. And I think I finished the bodice area, which may not have been done last year either. So yay, so pretty. I like this one. It's one of the smaller ones, but I think there's another Mirabilia that's even smaller. Can't remember, but this is one of the smaller ones that's on the list for finishing sooner than later. I think Adia, the Garden Fairy, is a little bit smaller than Stargazer, so both of these are contenders for maybe my next Mirabilia finishes, but we'll see. I haven't been focusing on any of these all that much lately. Here is Summer Queen by Mirabilia, and I have finished Autumn and Spring, and they take their turns, and Royal Holiday, which is the Queen one, the Christmas one. They take their turns on the same hook on the wall in my study above my desk. So I want Summer, and then later I'll show you Winter. I want them done so that I can have all 5 rotating throughout the year. Summer Queen has the least amount done of all the queens, but I did work on her a little bit this year. This is white MCG Textiles. No, this is Oyster, which is a hint away from white. So it's like a warmer white, basically. It's Oyster, linen, 32 count, 2/2. It looks odd because I started in the middle and kind of hopped, skipped, and jumped my way to the top so that I can focus on her head and then work my way down. So next time I work on this, I'll continue to focus on her hair, face, crown, etc., and then complete her beads and all down from the top down, which you can see in a couple more here when I get to Winter Queen, that's how I've tackled her, and her head is done now, which is really cool. So hopefully I can get to that point with Summer Queen as well, because it really is motivating to me when I work on it to have the heads finished, because they just look so pretty. All right, next I have Villa Mirabilia, and she's the largest Mirabilia I have, possibly the largest there is, but Lady of the Mist is pretty big too. I don't know if there's anything bigger. There might be. She is my biggest Mirabilia. She's really pretty. And I did her on probably called for fabric, Willow Green Belfast. I kitted it up in an LNS 20 years ago. Or maybe not, because I think I was married, so like 18 years ago. So here she is now. Let's get back farther so you can see all of it. Yay! So long enough for a before picture. Haven't done anything on the skirt yet. I have been focusing again, like Garden Prelude, trying to get the top done. So I've been trying to get this pot area finished. I think I finally got all the greenery finished, and now I can start working on the pot. So yay! Because I really want to get that top finished, and then I can just focus on enjoying the dress, because that's pretty. But back in the day when I started it, I did do a little bit of each of the colors in the dress because it's really pretty. I like how colorful this one is. All right, and here is Winter Queen, which I was mentioning. This one is a little bit farther along than Summer Queen. This one is on white, 32 count, linen by MCG Textiles, and here she is. So I really like how she's looking, and I love that she's, looks real now. Her head is all finished, crowns, beads, krynic, and then I'm starting in on finishing up this area. Her hands, I think all the skin is done. There's a few beads right here, but I think I'm still missing some stitches in the fur that she's holding. But yeah, really pretty. Okay, now my last fancy lady is a lavender lace called Winter Rose. This is a tiny one, so it's a little bit more on the scale of like a Nora Corbett. And I'm doing this one on, what is this one? Vintage Misty Rain in 46 count, 1/2. And so again, it's hand dyed, a little bit shrunk, so the actual stitches are closer to a 25 count size stitch, where like most of my other Mirabilias are, the cross stitches are like a 16 count because they're 2/2 on 32 count. So this one, I was able to do it this way because same with Enchanted Garden, Enchanted Alphabet, these two don't have any beads. So it made it nice to be able to convert it to a smaller count and not have to worry about that. So recently I think I finished up this side and was starting to work on this side a little bit of the scroll work. So still haven't gotten to the girl yet, but the scroll work is pretty too. And that is my category of fancy ladies. There were 19 of them, and I have my next category coming up is my full coverage category, and I have 23 full coverage projects. So I will be taking a pause here, resetting. I'll probably have to go get my son in between there, so I will get everything restaged, go pick him up, and then hopefully have some time to do this chunk still this morning. And we'll have to wait and see. I might have to do some of this filming tomorrow, but it's gonna be a long one. So see you in a minute. All right, we're back with part 2, which is all of my full coverage projects. I ran and picked up my son. He had a half day today, and now I'll try to film a couple more parts before I have to stop for lunch. Possibly even only one more part, but we'll see. This is my first one, African Woman with Peonies 2. It's by Artisy, and as I did with full coverage, I'm going to do these alphabetically, so that's the order they'll be in. This is one I started with Colette, the Highway Stitcher, and Denise over at Black Ribbon Stitch Studio. I think is her channel name. And I don't know, something about it, just fell in love with it. The colors are really pretty. It's not super huge, so I thought, sure, why not? I had a piece of fabric that just kind of worked. So this is on 25 count vintage cloth in the color Prim, 1/1, or no, 2/1 half crosses. So I am doing a half stitch, which makes it go a little bit faster. A lot of my full coverages are done that way. And I've gotten to the full width of the design, which is really cool. So now I'm working, for the most part, I'm picking symbols from left to right, top to bottom. So now I'm even starting to pick symbols in the next row down. Yeah, into the second row. So yay, that's exciting. You can see her hand starting right here, and here is her head. So that's pretty cool. And I think, I don't remember when I started this. If I may or may not have a before picture. I can't remember exactly when I started this. If it's this year or last year. You will see if you see a before picture. Then I must have started it last year. Maybe this time I can put them over here because all of my cover pictures are in my folder, because I believe all of these are in Pattern Keeper, so I just print out the cover pages and put them all in one folder, and then I can have them to show you nicely. So the next one is Quick Stitch April Fairy, which is by Heaven and Earth Designs, artwork by Hannah Lynn, and this is really pretty. I like this one. The colors are vibrant and colorful, very me. All right, I was checking on something and I realized our gardeners are here, so hopefully I'll probably have to end up taking a break at some point when they get too noisy here in the backyard. But right now they're in the front still, so I'll keep going as much as I can. So here is my progress on Quick Stitch April Fairy. This is on 28 count Rose Monaco, 1/1 full crosses, and I'm doing a meticulous stitch by stitch method in 10 by 10 diagonals. And I'm really enjoying these pops of pink that are showing up in her hair. And hopefully maybe next year I'll get to the start of the butterfly on at the top in her hair. But this is pretty so far, and it's really fun, relaxing project. The only one I'm stitching with this slower method, which sometimes I feel like, I wonder what it would be like if I went faster. But it is kind of a fun experiment, and I like how it's looking. I do enjoy it when I get into it, so I figured it's good to have at least one project like that, just for the uniqueness of it. So I am enjoying that one. My next one is Mini Bear Time Stories by Randall Spangler, another Heaven and Earth Designs. This one I'm doing for my middle child, my son. He likes teddy bears and dragons and reading, so this is perfect for him. And I'm doing this one on 40 count Vertical 1/1 half crosses extreme cross country. So this is the entire shape of the design all the way to the bottom. I have one color completely finished, actually at least one color. I think I finished the green too, so that green is completely finished as well. And I have a couple other colors partially started, so I've started some cookie. There's a second rusty orange color that I've started but not finished, and there's a few colors down in here that I worked on that are only partially finished too. So that's pretty cool. I liked when I picked one of these colors in the corner, I realized it was almost everywhere in the design. I figured, well, let's go ahead and try extreme cross country because it's very small and everything is fairly close enough to count, and then I'll have a nice structure for continuing to pick colors. So you can see the little dragons starting to show up, and the bear, and the pillows. So that's fun. The next one is Mini Bird Song, another Heaven and Earth Designs. This is by Tatiana Fedorova, and I have a bigger printout of this one. There is a full-size version of this, but I have the mini because I felt like it had enough details for me. Okay, I'm back after the lawnmower break. I just filmed like 5 projects and it wasn't recording. I'm not sure what happened. So hopefully this will record this time. Here is Mini Bird Song, which I already talked about. So hopefully I remember to tell you everything about these next few projects. This is 40 count Vertical 1/1 half crosses. And I've been working in the parked threads so that we've reached the far edge of the design now. And there's still a few more to finish up, but the sky goes to like here, and there's probably a little bit more down here. This is the beak of the first bird, but it's fun to see more structure coming out in the design and to get those park threads taken away. I've discovered since I'm using Pattern Keeper now, I find I don't need parked threads. Pattern Keeper highlights your symbols, and so I prefer to just follow the symbol where it goes. It's easier to follow, to figure out where the next stitch is in there versus when you're just using a paper pattern. So I've found I am eliminating parking on almost everything. The Quick Stitch Fairy that has the diagonal special method, I'm still parking, but that's the only one. The next one is Empress Eugenie by Golden Kite. This is my widest project by stitch count, but not my largest because I've cropped a bunch. It would have been my largest if it was as charted, but I've taken off one half, like partial column off of this side and 2 full rows off the top, because all I really care about is stitching the girls. I don't want to waste my time on background. So it's now oh, I missed one. Oh well, we'll make sure to do that one right after. This is Empress Eugenie. 28 count Dove Gray Monaco with 2/1 half stitches. I believe I tried to restart this on 40 count Vertical to try to make it a little smaller in physical size, but then I remembered it has blends because it's a Golden Kite and I can't do blends with 1 strand. So I had to do 2 strands, and 28 count is my favorite with 2 strands. for full coverage. So 2 strands, half stitches. And I believe this is maybe the start of the first lady's head, which is pretty cool. A bonus of not stitching 2 rows of background before I get to all the ladies. All right, so many interruptions this time around. Here is Mini Elegant Lady with a Bouquet. I missed this one in the alphabet, so it should have been before Empress Eugenie, but that's okay. It's Heaven and Earth Designs, Emile Vernon, and I'm doing the mini. As I said, I chose this one to start as a replacement 25 count 1/1 project when I finished Quick Stitch Iris earlier in the year. So this is a new one for this year, and it's 1/1 full crosses on 25 count. This is 25 count vintage cloth in the color Barley, and pretty happy with that. You can already see the top of her hat and the bow coming together with the outline of the background that I've filled in so far, so pretty fun. And then we have The End of the Ball by Golden Kite. This is really fun. I love her dress and little shoe poking out the bottom. It's got a decent amount of background up here, but it's less than a row of pages, so I just left it in. It's easier to crop a pattern when it's just full rows and columns. This is on 24 count Congress cloth, which is pretty see-through because it's a canvas. But once it's filled in, it won't be see-through. This is how far I am now. This is 2/1 half stitches. You can see the drape of the curtain. I believe some of these stitches over here are the start of the people. So that's exciting. Yay! I like this one. I worked a lot on all these different ones earlier this year. I was involved in a lot of Full Coverage Fanatics challenges, and I've kind of tapered off and redirected some of my focus here during the middle of the year, and so I really kind of want to get back to some of these. But I also want to focus on finishing a few things before the end of the year, so we'll see. The next full coverage piece I have is The Flower Garden. This is also by Emile Vernon, Heaven and Earth Designs. It's a large one. This is my largest WIP out of all of them, because she pretty much fills up the entire thing. There's really not anything to crop out. I guess you could crop out maybe some of the skirt, but by the time I get there, I'll be 90 years old, so, or dead. Right now I'm up here. So I'm just enjoying it stitch by stitch. This is on 28 count Rose Monaco, 2/1 half stitches, and working my way across the top now, filling in, picking symbols and just working them till they run out. Sometimes I have to just cut them off because there really aren't that many. There's a lot of confetti here. And so I'm just kind of going as far as I feel like it makes sense to count, and hopefully finish a string or just move on to the next color. So that's kind of my plan on this one. This will take me a while, but it'll be fun to work on. Then we have Grapes by Golden Kite. This is a small version over there. They have a larger one, but this one is still very detailed. I'm doing this one on 18 count Fiddler's Ada with 2 strands. And I am also working in the parked threads on this one. Got a decent amount done on this one already. Have the top row completely finished. Second row has a good chunk over here that's finished. And then all these parked threads that I want to, ideally, I want these parked threads done before the end of the calendar year, because this I want to focus on to hopefully finish next year. If I use this for my 22,000 stitches in 2021 next year, or 2022, I mean, I'll be able to finish it, I think. If I get the extra stitches this year to working on my parked threads, that goal to finish this next year is not unreasonable. So that's my plan. I would love to get this done. It's really pretty. So I think this is my next full coverage focus. Okay, and my next one is Knitting Woman. This is another golden kite. It's a rather small one considering some of the other ones I have, but it's the only size they have. So there's plenty of detail just in this one. This is on 22 count, 2/1 half stitches. And I'm doing this for my mom. The top row pages again is complete. And now I'm picking colors and filling in till the string runs out. So some of them have come all the way to the bottom down here. I think I'm not quite to the bottom, but close. As far as the farthest, lowest stitches, you got the start of the kitty cat. You can see her hands knitting, the start of the shape of the hands there. So this is pretty fun. Up close, you can see a lot of fabric show through in the dark colors, but it's okay. 22 count, 2/1 half stitches, not something I will ever do again, but this fabric was the perfect size, and I think it looks nice enough that I'm gonna continue with it. And then we have La Soiree, also by Golden Kite. This is a medium size. There's also a small, which I didn't feel like had enough detail, and a regular, which had, or large, I guess, that had more detail than I felt. It was bigger than I felt like I needed to tackle. This one I'm also cropping one row of pages off the top, and I think this row of pages here, because I didn't feel like I needed any of this. I just wanted the ladies. And so I am cropping this a little bit too. This is another one that's on Congress cloth. This is 24 count Congress cloth. Still working in the parked threads on this one. Not as far on this one as the end of the ball, but I have done a little bit more since last year. Working in the wallpaper. So it's kind of cool to see the texture on the wallpaper. This middle part, you can kind of start to see the twists in the paneling there, which is kind of fun. So yeah, lots of yellows and whites right now, but I'm excited to get to the girls and their satiny looking dresses. All right, my next one is the Love Letter by Golden Kite. This is the full size. They had a small one. I liked the details of her dress and her hat, just way more with the full size version. As a result, I've spent a lot of time in the background so far, but what I have done in the feather of the hat is amazing. So still pretty happy with this. And this has a few pages finished. This is 25 count, even weave, 2/1 half stitches. I guess I have all the way over there now. How far over does it go? Wow, I didn't realize that. How cool. So I've gotten pretty far around the edge of her hat. I'm working in the parked threads again, like I've been doing on a lot of these pieces. So some of these went around the edge of her hat and even over into some of the background there. Still have more to do here, but the feather on that is just amazing detail. A lot of confetti, but amazing detail. So these pages, there's like 3 or 4 pages right here that are completely finished, but now I'm trying to work these in, and then I'll keep moving across the top. Pretty cool. Okay, next we have The Nativity by Heaven and Earth Designs, artwork by Donna Gelsinger, and they think they have a mini of this as well, but I have the full-size version and really enjoying it. I finished a page up here already in the palm tree, and it's so fun that it's right away you see something. So I love that. And I think in this one I finished the park threads, finished working them in, and I have been able to start working across the top properly now, the way I like to. But it's really fun. You can see the palm tree, obviously a good chunk of that done, and then the rest of it started, and the first wise man, you really kind of see his shape starting too. This is 28 count white Monaco, 2/1 half stitches. So looking forward to that. Probably do a little bit more on that at least around Christmas time. This one comes out somewhat regularly for challenge prompts as well, because there's animals and stars. Sometimes those things need, and structures, because there's a building in it, and people, you know, so there's sometimes things that fit challenge prompts. Here's the next one, Norwegian Ship Under Sail by Golden Kite. This is the small version, which I felt was a good enough size for what I wanted to do. My husband likes these kind of ships, thinks they're kind of cool, so I thought I would do this for him. I don't know that he knows I'm doing it, but it's okay. It's not a surprise, I just haven't really shared it. This is another one on the 25 count even weave that the love letter and quick stitch iris were on. Same piece I cut up for all of these, and I have made it all the way across the piece. I think this is either the very edge or close to it, because at one point I hop, skipped, and jumped across the top to see if I could start as many pages as I could for Terry Lee Craft's birthday challenge. And so I picked different symbols that I felt would carry me along and managed to start all the pages in the top row. And then right here is the beginning of the ship. You can kind of see the mast and the sail shapes starting to come out, which is pretty fun. So more on this would be fun to get it filled in more, obviously, so stay tuned. We'll see what I can do every year by year, chipping away at all of these large projects. I like them all, and I know I'm crazy, but it's fun. So here's another Heaven and Earth Designs. This is Mini Princess of the Sea. And again, with this one, I felt like the cover picture was too small, so I printed out the mock-up off of the website. Mine is toner save mode printing, so the actual cross stitch is usually kind of a shock at how saturated the colors are, but that's why, because this is a toner save mode. But she reminds me of my daughter, who enjoys the ocean and is blonde. It's just cute. So this is on 28 count Dove Gray Monaco, 2/1 half stitches. You can see at one point I was working in columns. I've done a little bit on her face, and now I'm working across the top. So a lot of different methods going on here, but I do hope to reach, you know, go across the top and then work down solidly at that point. That's kind of my plan for this piece, and for all of them really, because I really like that now that I have Pattern Keeper. It takes some of the guesswork out of, and decision-making angst out of picking symbols and what should I work on next, which section should I work on next, which symbol should I work on next. I just pick the next one, left to right, top to bottom. It's been working for me and I'm really enjoying it. So this is Princess de Broglie from Golden Kite. This is my first Golden Kite, and I have recently restarted it because originally it was on 18 count Aida, which made it enormous, but it also had all the background, and I was no longer digging all the background. So I have since restarted it. I got the new version I received for Pattern Keeper was also slightly different. So I decided, instead of trying to mesh the two patterns or try to continue with this as a paper pattern, which would make me never want to work on it now that I've been spoiled by Pattern Keeper, decided to restart it with the Pattern Keeper version on smaller fabric, cropping out the top row of pages, and I think even one of these columns I'm going to crop out. So most of what I'll be doing is just her and her beautiful blue dress, which is what drew me to the picture in the first place. So this is my current progress on this one, which is what is this? 28 count, let's see, Mushroom Even Weave by MCG Textiles. 2 strands over 1, half stitches. So I believe I've made it close to the edge at the very least of what I'm going to be cropping out on that side. So, because this side I can't crop out anymore because her skirt poofs out and I want to get all of that beautiful blue skirt, but I don't need all of the chair. So I'm cropping out more on this side. So that's most of the width of it. I've started a little bit of her face. She looks horrible, but because of my old one, I know that even though she looks really weird with these colors, once you get them all blended together, she looks amazing. So I am happy to trust the chart and keep going on this one to do a little bit of background, a little bit of face, a little bit of background, get that put together. So next I have Stitcher's Retreat by Heaven and Earth Designs. This is no longer available from what I understand, but it used to be a freebie on their website. So I happened to get it when it was free. This is one I'm cropping down significantly because the original size is massive. And again, not a fan of wasting my life on background. So I cropped off 2 rows off the top, 2 rows off the bottom, 1 and a partial row off of this side, and a full column off of this side. 1 full column and then 1 and a partial, 2 rows, 2 rows. So it's just the center. It'll now be a landscape orientation instead of portrait with just the ladies. And based on where I decided to crop off just a touch of their dresses just because the way the rows happened, it just made sense. And I felt like this was a nice, pleasing ratio as well. So here's this one. This is also on Rose Monaco, 2 over 1 half stitches. And I started out doing extreme cross country with that darkest brown color, almost black. I think it's 3371. And then I decided to go ahead and throw in some pops of color, and I may eventually go back and keep working on that brown color, but for now I'm happy to just focus on whatever section I feel like working on. And maybe at some point I might actually come up here and start working across the top as well and get some of the background in top to bottom like I like to do as well. But got some start in on their faces and the green girl's dress, and then the area of the wall under the lamp that's brighter in the middle, just to make sure the stitches between the girls are accurately counted. I had restarted this because originally I was planning to do the entire thing, and then I decided nope. Let's crop that down, shall we? So I'm happy with my restart of that. Let's pull that inside. There we go. Okay, next we have a stitching shelf by Heaven and Earth Designs. I have the max color version, but it is regular size, which means a lot of confetti. But I felt like the mini didn't have enough, definitely didn't have enough detail. The regular size, regular color kind of felt like it was missing some details. I did not want to go super size, but I felt like regular size max color gave me the best of everything, and that's the one I stuck with. This one is another big one, just like Villa Mirabilia, where I'll have to lean back quite a ways. I started out in the top corner, but since then I have followed along all the shelves so that I can get to all the different vignettes as I feel like it. I'm still working in some parked threads, but I have a lot of the rest of it worked on. This is 28 count. 28 count tea-dyed Monaco, 2 over 1 half stitches. Yeah, I think that's in there. I'll probably have to do a before and after whole screen. I'm hoping I can get it all in there. Hopefully that's everything. that far enough over? Yeah. Cannot see through this fabric, it's too fat. But I still have some parked threads that I'd like to finish getting in here, so I can just not worry about them and go about my business wherever I feel like going throughout, depending on challenges and depending on how I feel. I can work on all the different sections. So that's fun. And I decided to go along those shelves and book spines to make sure that the counting was accurate. And I feel very confident in where everything is placed by doing that. Okay, come back up. Here is another golden kite. This is Three Sisters. Reminds me of me and my sisters. When we were younger, our hair was very obviously blonde. Mine is darkened a lot as an adult, but it was pretty blonde when I was little. My older sister is a redhead. Hers is also darkened a lot as an adult. And my younger sister is a brunette. So this reminds me of me and my sisters. So it's perfect. And it is a full-size version done on 18 count Aida. So it's large, mainly just because it's on 18 count Aida, but I'm not going to restart it. It's two strands, full crosses. There are a few parked threads as well, but most of them have been worked in. And I have been doing partial extreme cross country on the first girl. I guess I have, let me try to unroll it a little bit more. So that's where she's at now. The colors in her are also in the other girls, as many of them, but I didn't want to count across the whole thing yet. So I was just sticking with counting across one girl, because even within her, her head spans like 10 pages, 12 pages, something crazy. So it's definitely extreme cross country. And then lately, so you can see a close up of her features are coming together. Still a long way to go to get it smoothed out and all the holes filled in. But I'm filling in the parked threads and until just finishing them wherever they go. And then eventually I'll, do my whole working across the top thing as well as trying to keep working in on her. So eventually, once the parked threads are done, probably spend, half and half of the time, background and girl, just because she needs some more attention too. But I don't want to neglect the background because there is a lot of it. And I can't really cut off that much because the middle girl is taller. This is, the girls on the sides are a little bit shorter. So you have to have the super confetti heavy background on either side because the middle girl needs the height. This tube is a fun one. It had a world map in it. And I'm like, hey, that's a nice tube. And look, my piece still sticks out of the top. It's funny. I used that that map on the wall to pin Etsy sales, which is fun. Okay, so my next one is Visit Endor, which is, I believe, my smallest full coverage and my one with the least amount of colors. So if there's ever a challenge for the least amount of colors or less than 90 colors, this is the only one that qualifies. So it's got, I don't remember, I think it's got like 11 colors or something. This is for my oldest son who likes Star Wars. I'm doing it 2/1 half stitches on Dove Gray Monaco. You will notice a lot of my things are on Rose or Dove Gray Monaco because I bought a bunch of it from Rita Reen's Cross Stitch. I'll put that in the description box. She's on Facebook and sells Aida and some Monaco by the yard at very reasonable prices. So if you want large quantities of some basic fabrics, she's a great place to go. So this is where that one is, and I've really enjoyed working on this every little bit. It's very, very block stitching. So when I do get a chance to work on it, I can make a decent amount of progress pretty quickly because they're half stitches and it's not confetti heavy. So that one can be kind of a nice palette cleanser, even though it's a full coverage. Here's second to last full coverage piece. This is a Golden Kite, Waterfall in Yosemite, the mini version. And as if you watch my channel regularly, you'll know I'm working on this almost every day. So there should be a decent amount of progress from where it was in January. For the past 8 months, I've been working on this most days. This is another one on 18 count Aida, 2 strands, and it's antique white. And this is where I've gotten to. Obviously, it's the full width. I'm working through the sky. I've already started to get into some of the mountains around the waterfall, which is really fun. And this will eventually be a more vertical piece than it is horizontal. So far, for a long time, I've been able to hold it, do like up and down before and afters, but I should start doing the side-by-sides because it is, it's gonna be a long piece. I'm still way up here. So once I do the waterfall, there's this whole creek stream and rocks that I have to do. So there's a good amount left on this one. But working on it as part of this challenge, doing a few stitches every day has really, really helped. So next year I do want to work on grapes throughout the year, but at some point this one might come out again for another daily challenge down the road, because it is helpful to work my way through it because it's pretty, but it's not necessarily vibrant colors, which I tend to gravitate towards normally. So my very last full coverage piece is the Young Gardener. This one is charted by Art of Stitching, and I received this as a giveaway winner, I think, on one of their blogs or newsletters or something back several years ago. And I'm like, oh, I like this one. I believe you can find this at Heaven and Earth Designs or Golden Kite or both. Maybe some other places now, but this is Art of Stitching is the version I have, and I decided to do it on, I think I originally started it on 32 count, 1/1 half stitches, and it wasn't dense enough coverage. So now I'm doing it again on 40 count, 1/1 half stitches. This is the full width of the design, so it's really tiny. You can see a decent amount of the mom starting to come together, her hat. And so Bear Time Stories, Bird Song, Young Gardener. I may not have, maybe just 3 right now. I have one more Vase of Roses that I would like to eventually do. I think I'll probably end up doing this one on 40 count also, but I haven't put that in my plans yet. I own it. So that is the end of part 2 of my enormous WIP parade. That was all 23 full coverage pieces. I will be starting a 24th piece on Friday. So next year you'll see one more at least in that category. Probably more because I have another one I'm planning to start in April. 25 is a nice number, right? Anyways, there's never enough, or never more, never too much. That's the word, never too much as far as cross stitch goes. So I will have to come back either this afternoon and or tomorrow to film the next 2 parts. So for you, it'll be just a few seconds, but for me, I need to go live some life and then I'll be back. So just a minute. Okay, I'm back. It's now the afternoon, so the lighting might be slightly different. I realized when I was putting things away that I only showed 22 full coverage projects, even though I said I had 23, because one of them is Friends of the Library, which was my needlepoint piece, which it's in hiatus at the moment. I've abandoned it, but I'm recharting it to do as a cross stitch piece. So it's not showable, I guess. So for that one, I'll show next time. Lord willing, it will be ready and have been restarted by the time I do this again next September, and we'll take it from there. So going forward, this is the chunk for other projects. I was realizing as I was gathering some of these things that some of the things that I put in the sampler category may be closer to the other category. So there's some things that I didn't really have enough time today to recategorize everything. But whenever I put it in the spreadsheet, at some point, I felt like it was more sampler-esque than than not, I guess. Since I don't really do samplers, if it's kind of sort of close to a sampler, I think I just shoved it in the sampler category just because I didn't know what else to do with it. But everything in this category, this other, is definitely other. It doesn't have a category of a major category, I guess I should say. They all have maybe, anyways, this is just my other category. It was kind of nice to have 4 fairly even amounts of projects. Works really nice for gathering everything up. So again, we'll do alphabetical. So we'll start with my Brooks Books Advent Animals. And these are a complicated piece to show the picture because there's no one picture. Like, this is the page for number 2. These are free patterns on Brooks Books website. So there's a printout for each one, and I don't really have one picture for all of them, and I don't think there is one picture for all of them available. But I will go through and show you what I have on each one, and I'll hopefully show a side-by-side of what it might have looked like in January. I might have worked on some of these since then. Maybe not all of them, because I know I worked on all of them. I started them all last July, but I didn't necessarily work on all of them. I can't remember if I had Kitty finished at the beginning of the year, but she's finished now. And these are all on 18 count light blue Aida with 2 strands. I've been working on Peter Polar Bear, so he's got some significant progress compared to some of these. All right, so here we have Mary Mouse. How far I've gotten on her so far. Duncan Dog. Hattie Hedgehog. Cashmere Camel. Not a lot done on her. Pierre Penguin. I'm pretty sure most of these don't have any progress since last July, but I'll show them again, if only just to have the placeholder for next year. Pearly Pig. And I worked on Odette Owl, that might have been this year. Peter Polar Bear obviously had some progress. Kenny Kangaroo. Sheila Sheep. Fitzwilliam Frog. He's a fun character, singing his little heart out. Sophie Squirrel. Colin Cardinal. Cassie Cow. Rascal Raccoon. And I'm hoping to make these travel stitching before too much time passes this fall. Here's Gigi Giraffe. So that hopefully I will see some progress on these next year. Hamilton Horse. Remy Rabbit. Larry Lion. Here's one that I worked on more than last July, but I don't know if it was this calendar year. Odette Owl. Ethan Elephant. He's just got a little bit of his hat. That first July, I color completed one color. I tried to make it more of a medium amount, depending on the day I worked on it. Ping Panda. And something that would make it distinct enough that I know which one it was as well. Alistair Alligator. Deborah Donkey. Have her shooting star. And Rudolph Reindeer. So there's my Advent animals. All 25 of them. So yes, hoping I will be able to work on those a little bit more this fall and Christmas time and regularly as travel stitching here and there. That would be nice. So next we have Antique Shoe Collection. This is an old Bucilla kit. I think I'm currently calling this my oldest WIP because I'm pretty sure I started it in high school. So it's old. Using all the kit items. This is on 14 count. It's antique white Aida or just faded Aida. And here it is. I may have worked on this a little bit for challenge prompts at the beginning of the year. So you might see a little bit of progress. I feel like I did some stuff up here because I don't think it was in my arbitrary August wheel. So I think I did work on it a little bit. I just don't remember why. That's a very colorful, fun one. Then I have Blackwork Flower with Butterflies is the next one alphabetically, but that's the one I'm working on still today for my arbitrary August rotation. So I will pop in a clip of that one tomorrow, which I'll film while I'm filming part 4. So I'll put that in here. Okay, I'm here to share with you Blackwork Flower with Butterflies, and it's actually already Thursday, September 2nd. It's my final clip of my WIP parade, but I didn't want to show this project mid rotation. So this is by Leslie Tier, and I wanted to get it to a good stopping point and to meet a goal in a challenge group. So now it's done for the time being, and I can share it. So this is where it's at now. This is on 28 count light blue even weave by Artiste, the Hobby Lobby brand, Zweigart base, and I'm pretty happy with how far I got. I got that butterfly, ended up being a lot more detailed than I expected. Got some lots of different colors in the back stitching. I did some of the red back stitching, ended up in here a little bit, but I didn't actually get to the black work yet on those petals, but I kind of finished this corner of the pattern, which is cool. I'm doing this with random, mostly Victorian Motto floss and some Petite Treasure braid, as well as DMC 310. So again, I just decided to pick some pretty colors out of my growing fancy floss stash and put them to use. So that's a fun one. And now I'll let you get back to the rest of my WIP parade. And now we can go to By the Window in the Morning, which is the piece I'm doing for 20th anniversary sampler. This is by Soda Stitch, and I'm doing this main big one, but I'm doing it on beige fabric, and I made the window blue with stars rather than light because I want it to be by the window at nighttime. I'm gonna put a quote at the top and our anniversary details somehow on the bottom. I think I might have started this year, so there's probably no before. So here it is now. This is on 18 count Devosa beige, and I got kind of a slow start because I was adjusting the colors as I went. I'm adjusting some of the colors to be less neon, and I definitely am, you know, adding the nighttime sky in the background. There's some backstitch curtains here. This one's not backstitched yet. If I feel like it needs a little bit of something to go next to the full coverage window, I might add a few more stitches in there later on, but I'll have to wait and see once I get other things in there how it looks. So I'll add that at the end if I need to. Okay, next is Chaplain's Garden, which I just recently worked on in Arbitrary August. This is a Janlin kit that I also got in high school, so it's another one of my oldest WIPs. Working with all the kit supplies, 96 colors, 14 count light blue Aida. I have done a little bit since last time, but not a lot. So here it is. I recently did the treetops up here. Last year I worked on some of these clouds that are hard to see, and then recently in Arbitrary August I did some of these treetops. So that's it side by side with last year, and then a little closer up what I've done so far this year. Not a lot, I only worked on it a couple days, but I'm thinking going forward into next year, possibly, I might want to have some time where I let the challenge prompts on Facebook kind of dictate what I work on. And lately, the last couple months, I've been picking my projects and then seeing if they fit any prompts, but I think it would be fun for at least some of the time, if I don't have any other plans, to look at the challenge prompts first and then say, of all of these 80 projects, which one fits the prompt best? And I think that would be kind of fun to do it for a little while at least. Next, I have Cherry Kitten, which is in my Pattern Keeper binder. It is an artisty design, but it is charted, no background. This is the basic part of it, super cute. I'm doing this one on Cosmos Even Weave by Pole Stitches. Yeah. Super pretty fabric. 1/1 full crosses on 28 count even weave. And I have done a little bit more since last time, so pretty cute. Next, we have another one that has its thing in Pattern Keeper. Crazy Wonderful Owl Family by Heaven and Earth Designs. This is another one that is charted by Anya Kai, or the artwork. It's got no background, so I'm doing it on a fun fabric. And it's another 28 count, 1/1. This is, what kind of fabric is this? Glacier. 28 count Glacier. Lugana. So this is where it's at now. Got a decent amount done in Papa Owl's head. And I love this quite a bit. So I definitely want to make more of an effort to work on this a little bit more. All the colors make sense. There's a lot of colors, but they are not confetti really. They kind of have a nice flow to them. So that makes it enjoyable. I feel like I'm tired now. It's the afternoon. I need a cup of tea. But I wanted to try to get one more part of this filmed so that I can hopefully get it uploaded sooner than later. I'll for sure have to film the last part tomorrow. So, but I don't want to stretch it out too far. Let's see. Cupcake Dreams is another one, originally from a full coverage company. This is Tilton Crafts. It was a freebie on their website. I don't know if it had been taken down, and I don't know when or if they'll be put back up at some point. She had a handful of freebies up there at one point. And this one, I realized when I put it in Pattern Keeper that it was actually charted to have a solid white background, which was not happening. So I took the background out myself. It was just solid white. I'm doing this on like a mint Jubilee, 28 count Jubilee fabric. And this is how far I've gotten. It's hard to see the green, but tiny little, I was picking colors from the top down. You can kind of see some of these little bits in here that are lighter shades as well, starting in on the frosting, is in addition to the strawberry tops. So that's fun. Let's see, Dragon Ride. This is a fan favorite. Some of you really like it. It's by Teresa Winsler. Doing this for my middle son, and work on this once or twice, 1 or 2 days every month, unless I have a month-long focus for stitching. So here's where this is at now, side by side with the other one, with how it was in January. And it's 2/2, 28 count, light blue even weave by MCG Textiles, and got some wing, I think, finished, and probably some in here. The man is 1/1, but everything else is 2/2. So that's a fun one. I should be able to, I think I'm gonna plan to work on this for 2 days here later in September, because it's this son's birthday in September, so I want to give it a little bit extra time. And then we have the first of my floral crosses. This is Fall Floral Cross. This is the only one I have that's not originally a kit. You can find these on the Cooler Design Studio website directly. This one I believe is from Everything Cross Stitch, so you can get it either of those places. I think 123 Stitch might even have these patterns available. And this one I kitted up myself with some 14 count Fiddler's Aida. And I don't remember when I worked on this last, if there's going to be a before and an after or not, but I think I've worked on all of these a little bit. Maybe not. Maybe this is one of the ones I hadn't gotten to yet. I should probably work on this at some point here in the fall to give it another rotation. All of my different all of my floral crosses have seen some progress fairly recently, so it's nice to see them progressing. Then I have Fantasy Triptych, which I recently worked on in Arbitrary August, so you've recently seen this. It's also by Teresa Winsler. Really old pattern that I inherited from my sister-in-law. She started it, and this is 25 count antique white even weave, and it's mostly 2/2. The faces are 1/1. She did a good chunk of the castle. I don't think I've done any castle. I think all of the castle is hers. When I first inherited it, I worked a lot on those trees at the bottom, which are a mess, and I eventually got tired of them and decided to work on border and start on the girl and a tiny bit over on the knight, but mostly recently I just worked on her a little bit, which was really fun. Okay, and then Hummingbird. I have my Mill Hill kit, which is in the other category. It's a buttons and beads kit, and I'm doing everything that was included in the kit, and you'll get to see a bonus progress update, because I did some yesterday that you haven't seen yet in my weekly videos. So here it is now. This is a new start since last year, so there's no before picture. And I'm super excited about how this is going. This week, yesterday I put in some beads here and up here. Don't think there's any over here. And some of this. There's another green in here that I did as well. So I did all of this color bead and then all of that other, like a medium green color. So that's exciting. I tend to get carried away with this one and I want to finish a chunk or a color, and to the neglect sometimes of my project for the day. But it's really fun. So next we have Leaning Tower of Macarons by the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. And actually I may just hold this up. Here's the pattern. Here's mine, which I believe is a new start since last time also. I'm doing mine on perforated paper, and it's super cute. It's going together really, really fast. I'm hoping to give this to my daughter for her birthday in the beginning of December. So coming up here in October and November, I'll give this some decent attention and get it finished for her, and I'll give it to her to be a bookmark. So I thought that was super cute. She loves macaron cookies because there were blue ones in The Mandalorian. One of the episodes, Baby Yoda was eating blue macarons, and ever since then she's like kind of obsessed with them. So when I saw that, I'm like, oh, I have to do that for her. This is another one, Purple Pansy by Carolyn Manning Designs. This is, she's calling it a thread sketch collection, and it's a bunch of colorful backstitching, not quite black work in my opinion. It's more outlining stitches, outlining shapes, rather than doing a pattern within a larger shape, which is what I feel like that black work is. This is how far I've gotten. This is light blue, antique white Ada, the same stuff I'm doing the Advent animals on. It's a scrap left over from my temperature tree kits in my Etsy shop. And I've got the whole center finished, and there's more around the outside left yet. This is one I'm hoping to maybe finish this year just so I don't carry it forward. I guess we'll see. But this is also a start this year, so no before picture. I am working this with a sulky pack that I had and a color and cotton mistletoe for the green, because this pack didn't have a green. This is like a primary variegated, which was not quite right. So the colors in mine are different than the one in original, but I'm using what I had. They charted the original with sulky also, so I figured it was a good one to try. Sulky. Next, I have my counted canvas piece, which technically is in the other category because it's not even cross stitch. It's definitely other. This is Rosetto, which I'm hoping to work on tomorrow and Thursday, by Needle Delights Originals. Comes with a whole bunch of fun specialty threads. This is on 18 count mono canvas, eggshell mono canvas, and this is where it's at. And I really enjoy trying new specialty stitches and seeing how the different types of threads lay, so pretty fun. I ordered myself a new one that actually arrived yesterday afternoon. Too late to show it in my video, but I have another one with half kitted. So hopefully, maybe New Year, new start, I'll be able to get it all ready to go and I can start that on New Year's, a new counted canvas piece. So that's that one. And I just recently put it in this bag from the Fat Quarter Shop that's kind of a square bag. And I didn't really know what to do with it, with the bag, for the longest time. And then just recently I'm like, you know what? I wonder if my counted canvas piece would fit in there. That's a square. And it just barely fits. So with the bag, with the pattern and floss all in there. So that's pretty cool. And I have a bigger bag that's also a square that was also kind of an awkward size. So I'm thinking that will probably work to fit the larger counted canvas piece that I just purchased and hope to start soon. Then we have Simpsons, which is a secret project I'm doing for my husband because he really likes The Simpsons. This is a random pattern I found on eBay a long time ago, and it's no longer available. And I actually had to rechart it because I received a paper copy in the mail and it was printed with really poor quality. the ink was smearing and the symbols were too similar to each other and it was really hard to read. So I, symbol by symbol, put it into my pattern software and put it into Pattern Keeper, and now I'm enjoying it again. So I've also restarted it. This used to be on 32 count, 1/1, which was too light of coverage. And so since I have restarted this on 40 count, Vertical, 1/1, half cross, and I love it. It's gonna be small and cute, and I've gotten a decent amount done. I'm working from the top down, picking symbols now. So I think I'm like right here, the tippity top of his head and all of this is completely finished, but then I think there's still obviously, you know, some missing symbols in here. So it's like from this point up is finished. So I'm picking symbols and then just doing them until they run out, which is how you get some of this stuff down here. We can see the start of Maggie and Lisa's head. So that's fun. Then we have Spring Floral Cross, the next one in this series. This is from the kit, Janlin kit that they used to sell with all the called for threads. This one came with, I believe this is the light blue Ada. And here's where this one is now. I've made it all the way across the top of the first. I've made it to the top on all of these. I've started in the center because most of these had kit fabric. I want to make sure that it's centered right. I worked my way to the top, and even on that fall one, which is I believe the one that's the least progress on it, has that first line of text finished. So they all have reached the top, and now I can work my way down, filling in everything nicely from the top down. So this one has a lot of the cross stitches completed up here, but there's still some back stitching. So as soon as I get more filled in, I can also go back and do some back stitching as I go on these. So this still feels really stiff, man. Kit Ada needs to be worked an awful lot for it to soften up. The next one is Summer Floral Cross. And this is the kit, you know, everything just like before. This one is on white. Ada, 14 count. These are 2 strands, all of these floral crosses. And this one, the top row isn't done yet, but it is, I have reached the top. So this one is probably a similar amount of work done to Fall Floral Cross, where I start in the middle, work my way up, and get to that top row of letters. So that's where Summer is at. And I like to, if I can swing it, work on these a little bit every season, but it doesn't always happen, I think. And then we have TN Books, which is Heaven and Earth Designs, artwork by Bridget Ashwood. Yeah, Ashwood. I have chosen to take the background out because I had a beautiful piece of 40 count Vertical fabric gifted to me that seemed perfect for this piece. And so I'm doing it 1/1, full crosses without the background, and I'm letting the fabric shine instead. And this is Days Gone By Vertical Even Weave. And you can see it's a pretty warm color. I don't know if I started this year or before. So I'm not sure if there will be a before picture or not. I think I did start this year. So there's all the steam, only the white stitches in the steam. I think there's a couple other creamy stitches, but I figured white's all I really need. Then I kind of worked along the top rim of the cup. There's a little bit of stitches in here that are kind of hard to see at the moment, but it will be the start of a butterfly up here pretty soon. But I wanted to kind of count over to the handle, and then there's the butterfly, which is one of the next highest items in the thing. So it's very busy, crazy, splotchy background, but I think that'll be really nice to have, and then you don't have to worry about stitching all of that background. And I forgot if I said this is 40 count, 1/1, half cross. So it's itty bitty little stitches. And it is the full size, not the mini, because I really liked the detail that came across on a full size. And then Winter Floral Cross is my last of these. Again, this is the kit one. I had acquired these over the years as gifts. They were on my wish list. And eventually they stopped selling the kits and I had to get the last one, that fall one, as just a pattern. But this is the winter one. I think I recently worked on this during Arbitrary August. This is on light green, 14 count, even Ada, 2 strands. The back stitching on all of these is 1 strand, but the cross stitches are 2 strand. So this one I have a few rows of stitching and started in on some holly there at the top of the tree. So that's fun. Then I have one more in this category that was a gift to me, and I'm calling it Winter Tree, and it's like a kit that's been pre-printed on 11 count Ada. It has a proper chart that goes with it, but the Ada also has the chart printed on it in colors that are nowhere near the actual thread colors, so that you can tell them apart, I think. And then you stitch over it with like 3 strands, I think, of floss, and then, because it's 11 count, and then you wash it and all the stuff comes out. So I started this year, so you won't see, I'm trying to feel where, like I did a little bit up here and then this right here. You can see the difference of some cross stitches. So I do hope, this is kind of an experiment, it was a gift, and I think it'll be fun to kind of play around with it. It's not as detailed as the cover picture looks, but I think it still will be a kind of a fun experiment to try. It could be fun for times when I don't want to think quite as much, because it's a or if I have low lighting or something, because it's an 11 count Ada and the stitches are printed right on the canvas in such a way that the color is in every block. This is like, the yellow is a symbol for one of the colors. It's not yellow, but yellow is the symbol, or the stripe is the symbol. So and it's printed accurately, which is nice, unlike that Friends of the Library kit that I'm recharting. So that's everything for that group. I will come back tomorrow and film the last set of things that I had originally put in the sampler category, whether or not they are officially samplers. And I'll also try to film my progress on the black work flower, which I'll put back where it belongs in the alphabetical of this section. And so with that, I will see you in a little bit. Okay, I'm back. It's now Wednesday, September 1st, 2021, and it's the morning again. And here we go. This is part number 4. These are the things that I had classified in my Excel sheet as samplers. Some of them have sampler in the name. Some of them kind of just feel sampler-esque to me, where they have little motifs, or they're a little bit more prim, or they have words. I've heard somebody a point say sampler, if it's an official sampler, it needs to have an alphabet. But I have some with the word sampler in the name of the pattern and they don't have an alphabet. So there's a couple of these that when I was pulling my other category yesterday, I saw them in my, stash or my WIP area, and I was like, that's not other? I said that was a sampler? So I might be recalculating my categories on some of these, but neither here nor there. Let's get going. I have 17 of these, so it's my smallest category. And a lot of them are more of the smaller travel type stitching. So let's get started. First one, I am calling this a sampler because it's a lot of different sampling of drinks. This is the Cozy Cafe Club by Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. It's their 2021 Mystery Stitch Along, so this is all that has been released so far. There's still 4 drinks yet to be released. This coffee cup was just released, so I have just barely started on that one. And you'll get to see a preview of progress, since I have done a little bit since my update video on Monday. So here is where this one is at now, and it was a new start for 2021. I think I started it in March when the sale started. So there's no before picture, but this is how far I've gotten so far. This one is almost exclusively travel stitching when I'm in the car, in the valet line, once in a while when I'm watching a show that I don't care to focus too much on. I'm doing it all the called for DMC, and except for the borders, when I picked out a few fancy flosses just to kind of use them up and have fun. So this is 1/1 full crosses on 25 count prim vintage cloth. And I have updated, this says, used to be raspberry mocha, I changed it to raspberry cocoa, and I liked the suggestion, this start of this diner mug over here that says coffee. I think I might change that to English breakfast tea. There's already Earl Grey tea, so I can't do that. I don't want to do cider or chai latte because there's 4 more drinks, and those 2 drinks are unique enough that they might already be represented here. I have a feeling pumpkin spice latte might be in here because that's a pretty classic drink. It's also a coffee drink, so I'll probably change pumpkin spice latte to chai latte or vanilla chai latte, which is my favorite drink. So I can't use that for this diner cup because I want to save it for another one that I'm pretty sure might happen. So, and hot cider is another fall one that might come up here in the next couple months, so it might fit the look of another one. So I think I'll stick with the tea. And I liked the thought of English breakfast that somebody suggested instead of Lipton or black. I think that is a pretty classic diner option that might be available. So we'll go with that. And my next one alphabetically is Cross Stitch Fun by Kesslins. This was a new chart this year in March, I think, at the first Needlework Expo. I don't normally follow Needlework Expo releases, but some of my friends were starting this. Colette, the Highway Stitcher, Shelly, Key X Stitch, and I thought, oh, and Kim, Cross Stitch Crazy, I think, on Instagram. They're all doing this, and I thought, well, it's super fun. I'll have to do it. It's not normally what I do, but it's the first time for everything. And I liked that it had some unique little motifs in here that you don't normally see on a sampler, and I'm doing Coastal Seaweed by Victorian Motto. This also won't have a before picture. This is on Star Sapphire Jobelin, I believe. 28 count, 1/1. So I have a solid fabric with a slightly variegated floss. Got just about, this is the center of the top border, so I think that progress is pretty great. And I'm excited to do more of this because it is really soothing. The colors and the style of stitching is nice and soothing. But yeah, I'm doing mine with solid fabric and variegated floss, and both Shelly and Colette are doing variegated fabric and solid floss. So it's kind of interesting. And very different color schemes, all three of us. When we get together and stitch, it's fun to compare because it's fun to see the same pattern in a variety of colorways. Next, I have the English Garden Sampler by Teresa Wensler. This one actually has an alphabet, so it counts. And I'm taking this scene out eventually and just shifting all this up and making sure the border lines up. So far I'm just here in the top border, so I haven't gotten to any of the fudging yet. But that will come in time. This is on also 28 count Jobelin. I think it's Ivory. And I may not have worked on this. I may have worked on this since January, but I mean, I know I have worked on this since January because it came up recently. I think it was Arbitrary August actually. So it should have some progress. I was trying to decide if it was a new start, but no, I think started it last year, I think, and it only had this medallion finished, except for the back stitching, which still isn't done. But I got to the other side during Arbitrary August, so that's fun. Filling up the screen. This is 2/2, except where it's going to be charted 1/1. I believe the alphabet and the gate at the bottom are charted 1/1. Next, I have Flea Market Flowers by It's So Emma at the Fat Quarter Shop, Lori Holt. This is one that is sampler-esque to me because it's just a bunch of little motifs and it's really pretty. I love the bright colors. I'm using the called for DMC, and I joined this with the stitch along back in June, but I had a whole bunch of other stuff going on at the time and I really didn't get a good foothold. Did not get very far on it, but I am hoping to finish this at some point without taking too much time. This is on the called for fabric, 25 count barley vintage cloth, but I'm doing mine 1/1. I think they recommend 2/2, but if I can do petite stitches, I will. So this is as far as I've gotten on this one. I believe this is also a new start here in 2021, so there won't be a before picture, but I finished these 3 completely, I'm pretty sure, and have been working on this one. And whenever I have threads that are that I need to finish, I'll just come down into these ones to finish the threads. So that's why these are like partially started. But I was working across the top, and then I'll work down. Like once this block is finished, I'll focus on this block since technically it's the next highest, and then I'll work on finishing this. But as I with this one, as I pull a string, I'll go into the following blocks to use up my thread, just because I feel like it's more efficient to just keep stitching rather than cut it off, put it back, and get a new color. So next I have Heirloom Nativity Sampler by the Victoria Sampler, and I really like her samplers. They're really pretty. They have a little cross stitch scenes, mostly cross stitch. The trees sometimes have some specialty back stitching involved, but then there's bands of specialty stitches, which can be really fun too. And at the bottom there's some hardanger, which I've never done, so when I get there, we'll see. It'll be a first for me. So here is this one. And I've done a little bit on this year, but not a lot. I worked a little bit in this bottom scene with the wise men, but I have it finished. This is 32 count MCG Textiles linen in gray, and I have everything finished completely through the bottom of that band. So this scene is the only thing that's not yet completed, and I've got a decent start on it, but there's still a good ways to go. I would like to finish that scene at least, and possibly even whatever specialty stitches are like in the chunk below it. Be great to finish that this year, but we'll see. We'll see what I have time for. I always have more plans and goals than I have time for. Next, we have the Heirloom Stitching Sampler, which is also by the Victoria Sampler. And this is it's skinnier than the other one and longer, I believe, but it has a similar concepts where it has some seams and some hardanger. Yeah, I think there's some hardanger up here on this one as well as down here. And some words and specialty stitches and lots of fun. This one is one I started with Colette, the Highway Stitcher, last year for World Cross Stitch Day in August. I have yet to work on it this year, so I hope to get it out at least once before the end of the year. And I'm still up here in the top. I have done a major color conversion for this because I had some purple fabric and I thought, sure. It was a long and skinny piece, so I figured long and skinny. So I decided to change up, and I have pulled threads from my stash that I felt worked with what was supposed to happen here, but also looked good on my fabric, which is not traditional fabric. So it's very purple, If I pull up closer, it might be less purple, so I gotta show you back there. But this is where I've gotten to, and it's probably exactly the same as last year because I don't think I've worked on it since January. I don't think I've worked on it since January. So hopefully next year you'll see some pretty progress on this one. So the letters are all the same color. They're a variegated fancy floss from Victorian Motto, I think called Victorian Grays maybe. And then this top border is 1/1. There's some more vines on each side of this that are also 1/1. So I'll keep plugging away on that. Hopefully bring this out for one rotation before the end of the year. But that's really fun fabric to work on. I forget what kind. I think I was just gifted it and I don't know exactly what it is. So it is fun to work on though. It's very nice fabric. Then I have High Hopes by Jess Nan. And this is a cute kitty. This is one of the ones that I'm like, why did I put that in the sampler category? This one may belong in other instead, but I think maybe because it was a bunch of little things, although they're all touching, so they're not really motifs per se. So if you agree that this should be in other instead of sampler, I wouldn't argue with you. It comes with a little charm to fit right in the middle when I'm done. This is on possibly Willow Green Belfast, 32 count. Looks like it's a little airy, see-through. I think I've worked on this a little bit this year, but not a lot. So there should be some difference, but I'm not sure what exactly. And there's a little bit of 1/1 in this. There's a little bit of specialty stitches. The nest at the top, I think, is done in specialty stitches. It called for pearl cotton white around the border there, but I didn't like it. It was bulky and lumpy, and so I'm just using 2 strands of DMC, and I'm happy. So that's my High Hopes. The kitty in this one looks a lot like my Cinnamon, who passed away in January. So I was thinking of maybe doing this in honor of her, but I don't know when I'll finish it. And I will hope to always have a cat, so it could just be fun to have a cat sampler and call it good. I also bought a cat sampler from Victorian Motto, the Victoria sampler that I haven't started yet, so that will represent all my cats too, that I've had over the years and in the future. The next one is His Name is Jesus, which is one I am stitching with Desiree, the Addicted Stitcher. Every couple weeks we pull this out. This is by Joyful Expressions. This I believe I considered a sampler because it's a bunch of words. And I'm doing this in 3 different shades of Victorian Motto on 28 count Ivory Lugana. Doing a navy and a red and a gold. And I think I started this year, so there won't be a before picture. But I've made it to the whole width of the design. It's not that large, especially since I'm doing it 1/1. It feels smaller than I expected it to be. I will do a few more small phrases before I start the big motif, the big phrase, His Name is Jesus, in the center. So I'm enjoying this. It's fun to see the little, stitching the little letters as they come along. It'll be interesting to see the change in variegation switch. So far I've had smaller letters that I've been working on with, so I see the change in variegation of the threads I've chosen every letter, or every 1 or 2 or 3 letters. It'll be different. Going forward into the big His Name is Jesus in the middle, it will be more like stripy throughout the big letters. So that's going to be a fun change to see how the variegation works in those larger letters. And that will be red. I believe that the big one I'm going to do in red. So remember, that one didn't look, I think that one has a decent amount of variegation. The gold I think is the most harsh, most diverse variegation. And the blue is a little bit more subtle. Let's see. The next is In the Beginning. And this is one that, another one like High Hopes. And I'm like, why did I put this in the sampler? Maybe just because there was words in it. And each little animal could be considered a motif, but it's all kind of connected with foliage and lots of back stitching, so I think it maybe belongs in the other category. So these were the two that I was thinking of switching back later, reallocating them to a different category for next year. This is on 18 count Aida, antique white, 2 strands, unless it's called for one, like the sky up here is one strand of a 1-strand half stitch. And I have done a little bit since last year, but just recently in Arbitrary August. So there's not a lot of difference. I worked up here in this corner doing some of that blue half stitching and some of the light green leaves. So hopefully get more on this at some point because I do want to get this done. It's a cute one. It's one of my oldest ones. I started it as a freshman in college. So it's been a while. 22 years, I think. All right. Next is My Story by Jeanette Douglas. This is my first and only currently Jeanette Douglas. And I liked this one. There's another Jeanette Douglas that I'm slowly kitting up. It's seasonal and has kind of these strips of bands for the seasons. And I'm definitely going to do that pretty soon as well. But this one caught my eye and it's a little bit smaller and it was a little bit easier to kit up with what I had in my stash. So a lot of this stuff is just stash threads that I have acquired over the years. Victorian mottos, color and cottons, gentle arts, you know, all the things. And so the other one, the seasonal one, had like 5 or 6 variegated Gloriana silks that were highly variegated, multicolor variegated, and I felt like it needed that to make the piece work. And so I'm waiting, and eventually I'll buy those silks before I work on that seasonal one, before I start that. So meanwhile, I'm trying Jeanette Douglas with this one, and it's been fun. So I do need to get this out again. I haven't worked on it yet this year. I'm doing this on 32 count lamb's wool linen by Witchelt. So it's the stiff see-through stuff, but it is nice that it's stiff when doing specialty stitches. So then it helps, keep things stiff. So I have some trees and just a bunch of different patterns and stitches with different threads. And this one, even here on the waves, is sparkly. So that's fun. I think I had a blending filament that I included with one of the threads. Just another one that I had on hand as well. And this one includes some that are a little more reddish brown, but it always looks green on camera. So this is really pretty. I love this one. So hopefully I'll get a chance to pull this out again for another rotation before the end of 2021. So next year you can see some progress on that. Okay, let's see if I can get through these. Prim Stitch series. This is one that is a 12-part series, and I acquired these from the Fat Quarter Shop, and I've been working through them. When you could do them all as one big piece. I'm doing them as individuals, and I'm leaving off the border. I will be sewing them together into like a doll / stuffed animal quilt for my daughter. So I won't show you all these covers because most of them are finished. Let's see, let's put that over here. So I'll show you all my finishes, and then I'll show you, because some of these, I would have started this earlier. So some of these are finishes since my WIP parade. So this will be finishes / WIPs. So here's number 1, and maybe I'll keep these nearby so I can know what they're called. This one is Patriotism and Industry, the little B, and these I'm doing 1/1 on vintage cloth in the color Prim, full crosses, and then I'm also playing with personalizing it with specialty stitches of my own devices. So this one has some specialty stitches here in the flowers and in the bee skep right there. So that's that one. This one is called Joy and Contentment, number 2. It's got some specialty stitches in the basket, in the star, and in the center of the flowers. I love the shimmer on some of those satiny stitches. This is number 3, Peace and Plenty. Has an angel with some feathery wings, some specialty stitches in her skirt, and the centers of all the flowers are specialty stitches also. And the top of the basket. So everywhere I felt I could do specialty stitches without compromising the nature of the chart, I tried it. This one is number 4, Kindness and Generosity. And I did his little patch on his knee, and the suspenders and band on his hat are a little bit of specialty stitches. The birdhouse has some, and then down here in the green is some also. And this is number 5, Beauty and Simplicity. This one I did some specialty stitches in the leaves and the centers of the flowers, as well as that star. I am working with the called for Ari Floss box, and it has their solid colors. They come on the little spools, and they are 6-stranded embroidery floss, just like DMC, but they also have a DMC conversion on the back of all the patterns. So this is number 6, Home and Hearth. This one took me forever and got me a little bit behind because I decided to plain stitch the house, and it took a long time, but I did some specialty stitches in the urn, the flowers, and the stars, or the vase, I guess, not urn. And this one is Faith and Endurance. This one I got wise and did some specialty stitches on the siding to help it go faster, as well as the flowers and the vase and the stars. And those windows are fun. Number 8, Pleasant and Gentle. This one I did some fun sheep stitches, as well as long stitches in her dress, and then some Jessica stitches in the flowers, which are kind of fun. So that's a fun one. Number 9, Welcoming and Cheerful. This one has some nice specialty stitches in the boxes and the pineapple, stars in the center of the flowers and the leaves. I had fun with these. And Love and Friendship, number 10. I did a fun specialty stitch on the cat again to make it look puffy, and the leaves and the star. These are charted with all full crosses, but I was just playing with some specialty stitches. Most of ones I just kind of made up, and some of them I Googled to kind of find a new stitch to try. This has a lot in the cake stand pedestal, as well as the leaves and centers of the flowers and stuff. That one is Gratitude and Grace. I think I forgot to say that one. And then number 12, which is the last one. Still working on this one. Hand and Heart to God. Just barely started it. This is where I'm at with that one. Just the very start of the hand. And I'm going to be doing the skin on the hand with regular cross stitches, but I'll probably do some specialty stitches on the heart in the middle, as well as in some of the flowers and star and stuff. So hopefully by next year, I do want to finish this before the end of the year. So by next WIP parade, it should be finished. And let's get that right there. And then Spring Roundels, which is a fun one by Barbara Jackson. This is one you can only get if you sign up for a class. And I was gifted this generously. It comes as a kit with all the things, even to finish them in these little hoops, which is really fun. So I started with this one, the tulips. And this is a very unique project because while it looks like cross stitches, I'm also doing it with some silks that it came with, which is fun. It looks like cross stitches, but it is actually all specialty stitches. There's not a cross stitch in the bunch. So this is fun, and I believe I started this summer, so no before picture, but hopefully I'll get some more progress on these before next September. So you'll see some progress on it. Hopefully this one at least will be finished by next September. So that's fun. It's been a treat to play with new stitches and new styles of stitching. And they're very pretty colors, so that's a fun one. Then is this the next one? Yes, Ink Circles Tapestry is the next one. And this one I've kitted up again with a lot fancy floss from my stash. A lot of these in this sampler category really lent themselves well to playing with the colors, just pulling things that were similar to what was called for, but was something that I already had. Rather than going out and buying new threads, I just used things that I'd been gathering that was close. So this one, I did work a little bit on it recently in Arbitrary August. So you will see a little bit of a difference. I worked on these two motifs up here. And oh yeah, this is on 28 count ivory Jobelin, 1/1 full crosses. And the spring roundels, I think it's 32 count linen. It was all a kit, so I'm just using whatever was in the kit, and there only one strand of silk for the different specialty stitches. The next one is Those Who Sing by The Drawn Thread. This is a really fun one. I recently worked on this a little bit. And with Colette, the highway stitcher, she started this for her birthday. I'm up here in the top. I finished the words. I believe I started this last October, so I should have a before picture on this one. This is on 32 count even weave in the color Mushroom Slushy by Fabric Flare. It's a printed fabric. It's really nice to work with, and I am really enjoying this one, so I need to get this back out more often. Finished the words, started in on the branches and the flowers. The flowers are specialty stitches, 2/2 for all the cross stitch, and I decided to do 3 strands on the satin stitches to make sure they had better coverage. And I am again using a similar but different conversion based on hand-dyed cottons that I had in my stash. Variety of brands, just whatever I had. And next we have those, let's see, To Everything, a season sampler. This is an old Busilicate, but you can find it as a digital or print pattern on the Cooler Design Studio website under the name Traditional Sampler. This one's another one that actually has the alphabet, so I consider it a sampler, and it's in the name. So this is a really old project, started likely in high school. This is on all the kit fabric and floss. This is 28 count even weave, mostly 2/2. There's a few specialty stitches in here that I do according to the instructions, which are probably 2 strands also. But there's some specialty satin stitches in the heart and some Bargello stitches in the border there. So slow going because there's a lot of confetti in the border especially. But I did some basket recently, so that should be new at least from last time. It's another one I really should spend more time on to make some progress, get this done. I tend to have so many fun things to work on that some things just get neglected for whatever reason. But I like everything I have. And then 2 more. Twisted Band Sampler by the Northern Expressions Needleworks. This is one, there's no alphabet, but it does say sampler in the pattern. So I think because this is a sampler of stitches. So there's alternating bands of cross stitch and specialty stitches. I really love this one too. They call for, there's 3 different brands of stitches of floss that's called for, and I'm using the DMC recommended colors. This is on the called for fabric 32 count bisque linen by Lakeside Linens. the cross stitches 2/2 and the specialty stitches are using 1 strand. And I've finished, I've gotten to the corner, which is exciting, and then started this band right here, which looks like it's full crosses again. So I'll finish that band and get back to the specialty stitches, which are my favorite part. They do offer this pattern in a cross stitch only version, but I love the specialty stitches. So that's a big part of why I got it in the first place. So I definitely did the specialty stitch version, which has a combination of cross stitch and specialty stitches. And then last but not least is my Winter Wonderland band sampler by Chatelaine. This is another one, there's no alphabet in here, but it's called a sampler. It's a band sampler. And I'm doing this with all the called for threads. There is a lot of DMC. There's a few, 2 or 3 silks. There's some silk lame braid. It's on ice blue linen, Belfast linen, mostly 2/2, except for these little 1/1 animals, and really enjoying that. Did a little bit of this recently during Arbitrary August, so I've shown this to you recently. There's silk lame, all the white is silk lame braid, which sparkles a little bit, and I'm adding beads as I go, so everything from like here up is done now. I'm working on this little scene down here with the animals, and yeah, that's exciting. So I think that's everything, guys. I showed 79 of the 80 WIPs that I have on my paper because Friends of the Library is on hiatus, but I will be bringing that back out. There's nothing to show because I'm not working on the old version as a needlepoint, but hopefully soon I will be restarting it as a cross stitch. And I'm hoping during editing that I'm going to take some notes and come up with a few goals for the end of the year of things that I, A, want to work on at least a little bit before the end of the year, and B, work in some parked threads on some of the full coverage pieces, and C, possibly even see a finish before the end of the 2021. So those are some things I'm going to be taking notes, see if I can find a few goals to work into my plans for the next few months. And hopefully this will be a new tradition to have a September 1st, roughly, WIP parade every year. So in the meantime, I will hopefully come back on Wednesday for a regular cross stitching update and get this edited over the next day or two, and hopefully you enjoy. Have a wonderful time working on whatever you have going on, and happy stitching. Bye.